Hi, it's Cuchillo, Lummi Nation.
Hey, Chairman, this is Colonel John Buck from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Good morning. I wanted to let you know that we've made a determination, and the bottom line up front is that we've determined there is a greater than de minimis impact to the Lummi Nation's fixed, usual and custom fishing rights based on the Treaty of Point Elliott. I've gone ahead and issued a decision on the permit, which was a denial without prejudice.
$700 million Gateway Pacific Terminal was a proposed deep water port to be located just north of Seattle.
It was advocated by shipping giant SSA Marine, along with its partners, Cloud Peak Energy and Montana's Crow Indian Tribe, as a new port to access markets in the Pacific Rim via rail. The coal industry is hoping exports to Asia will help shore up an already battered industry hurt by cheap natural gas prices and stringent new pollution law.
One of the things we looked at was the shipping of our coal, which is high compliance coal, and that kind of has hit a bit of a roadblock in Washington State with them turning down the port. I don't know that they had all the right data to make that decision. I don't know if they searched for all the right data to make that decision, or if it was an emotional decision based on a lot of loud environmental extreme rhetoric.
This morning's decision cheered by Lummi tribal members who call it a historic decision for treaty rights.
But the same decision scorned by backers of the project who claim the Corps had catered to special interests.
It was a long fight. And there were so many days where we thought, how are we going to win? How are we going to beat this?
When they talk about Cherry Point, when the project opponents talked about it, they said, well, Cherry Point's this little place we're going to put the dock. And the Lummi Nation said, no, you have to consider the impacts of that dock on all of this. And it never got to that point because the treaty rights were ultimately killed it, right?
I mean, Wechihachkin is one of our most ancient village sites, and it was inhabited for 75 generations. So there were thousands of people that lived there. They were born there and they died there. And it is listed by the state of Washington as a cemetery site. And I mean, Gateway wanted to come in and put 70 acres of mounds of coal on top of my ancestors. I didn't understand how just the fact that it was a village site and it was already marked how many burial sites there were there, how that couldn't protect it, how that right didn't. And then it started to become clear that it was going to be our fishing rights that were going to protect it.
So it was necessary to enter into a treaty, and in that treaty we secured and made sure that our ability to fish, our ability to access our fishing grounds were in the treaty. The state police gassed us. You see clouds of smoke, batons beating the people. Well, federal agents got gassed too. And that was kind of the nail in the coffin, which led to the United States versus Washington. Judge Bolt was the judge at the time. And Lummi secured and validated again. The treaty wasn't enough. It took the Bolt decision to validate that. So it gave us 50% of all natural resources in Washington State.
because I want you to do with me. Please, last week we talked about the fact that we discouraged.
I don't think at any one point I ever felt hopeful that we would win it. And I know when the announcement actually came, didn't celebrate because didn't think that we fought it before. There's been several other projects that have been turned down there. So, you know, it's like, yeah, might have beat it for right now, but, you know, for how long?
Many of us are here because of a stance or position on fossil fuels, coal, but what's really about is protecting and preserving our families, protecting and preserving our way of life, and protecting and preserving the greatest place in the world to live.
Fracking coal force deals overseas, railroading our communities. Just leave it in the ground. Leave it in the ground. Rethink what we think we need. Say hell no to corporate greed. Invest in green energy. And leave the rest in the ground, in the ground. Leave the rest in the ground.
It really is Oregon and Washington citizens and their love they have for their water and their environment versus the citizens of Montana and Wyoming and their need for exporting their coal.
Hard times are hitting the energy sector in America's West. Oil and gas production are down. And in Wyoming's coal industry, 3 of the state's 4 largest producers are now in bankruptcy, leading to hundreds of layoffs.
Oils or something where it gets down now.
That's a pretty sad sight right there. There's nothing wrong with those trucks. They're just not needed. Wyoming is pretty heavy on the energy side, so when you do away with oil and gas and coal, it's kind of difficult to find jobs for all those people. You know, as far as the total overall number of jobs lost in Wyoming from coal mining, I don't even know what that number is. There's so many subcontractors and people attached to the mines that are no longer there. I really don't know what those people are doing there.
Side of that tub, you see those 2 shoes.
Oh yeah.
It sets down and literally scoops them about 7 foot. Did you talk to Terry since he left?
Yeah, he's went to Cheyenne, applied for a job in the city and got. It sounded like he got it. He had to go do a blood test and finger samples and
You said he did move, or is?
No, he's going to. He didn't figure he was going to get a job as soon.
We'll tell you something. There's a group of people out here that are a bunch of coal miners. And they're proud coal miners. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, when they're loading a train to go someplace to provide electricity for somebody to sleep in a warm bed, and it's 20 below, 60-mile-an-hour wind, those people are at it. Those are the people doing it. Don't jeopardize that. And as far as the fisheries in the Northwest, you know, I understand where you're coming from, but I guarantee you, if we don't haul our coal to China to burn, they're going to burn non-compliance coal. We ain't telling China what to do. They're going to burn whatever the hell coal they want to burn.
The efforts to shut down coal is not bankrupting just the companies. They are bankrupting our communities and my people. I do not advocate for these companies, but for the thousands of people who work in our mines and associated jobs. If you believe that this is not a moral issue, I would suggest you look in the face of a miner who has been laid off and wonders will they be able to sell their home in a flooded housing market, just so they can leave our state to find work. Feel their desperation and fear, and tell me this is not a moral issue. Walk the streets of our community that is being decimated by job losses. Are we not morally obligated to our people, of our state, and really of our country that this will eventually affect? I have worked 31 years in Powder River Basin coal mines, and I'm pretty proud of it.
We were really seen as the heroes we were the king of energy, and it was something we were all really proud of. That's why it's hit me so hard, all the layoffs, and because it has affected there's not one family in this town that hasn't somehow been affected.
The Gateway Pacific thing would be, in my view, a pretty positive thing for Washington State. I mean, people that would be directly affected, a lot of them would be positively affected, so they probably have a little different view, but there aren't as many of them.
This is where I grew up, at Little Thunder Inn, this was the place that was 15 miles, maybe 11 miles from Jacobs Ranch mine, which was owned at that time by Kerr-McGee Coal, where my dad worked. I hate the term coal miner's daughter, but being a coal miner's daughter, I saw even in school, people would know, like there was different classes. So like if her dad's a coal miner, it meant that you had money and you had more opportunity, general perception. Her dad's a coal miner, her dad's a coal miner. And I think that you would know people that would come in and be interviewing for the positions or interviewing for the jobs. I mean, I think it's always been a draw here. There's my dad on the shovel and then my mom and my dad in the shovel door. So this is me obviously as a kid out at the mine. I think I was in a dump truck at this point, but I don't really remember.
Now, when they're grown up, I think they've kind of realized that they were quite fortunate that not everybody just gets to grow up seamlessly, as it were.
Coal is the driving force in our economy and something that our communities and our state falls back on for everything.
Now, what the impact of the port or the decision by Washington and the state of Washington to not have the port, that decision, how was that made? What data was used? Was it an emotional decision? Because if you take a look at the state of Washington and the state of Oregon, where are most of your environmentalists? Where are your environmental extremists? They're all located out there.
It's not that we're heartless people, it's just that we also don't want our environment destroyed. And we feel sad that some of the populations within the various states are suffering economically. But we know what it's like to suffer socio-economically.
We come from fishing families, so go back many generations. So we come from two of the fishing families here from Lummi, and so we just grew up on it.
There's never been a generation in either of our families that haven't fished.
As a general rule on our fishing boats, we just fish for fish companies that actually process it and market it. And this particular here, set up for the reef nets, we've been utilizing Lummi Island Wild, who have built some niche market on the high end.
we have 12 hours to basically pay our bills. We got 12 hours to go out and harvest and make that living, and that is important. But more important is that's 12 hours to go out on the water with my son, my daughter, to connect, to be one with the water, to teach them what my father and grandfather taught me, and keep that cycle going, because genetically, that's who we are. Genetically, without fishing, we're lost. We're no more. That's what fishing is it's much, much more than a job or monetary value.
We're doing our treaty protected fishing, and yet we're doing it amongst these big ferries and these coal boats up here. And this is the lovely coal dust that every ebb tide comes into the U.S. waters from the Tsawwassen coal terminal. But it just comes out this conveyor belt, and then it's just dropped off that. So it's all open up there. There, that's another streak of... So every ebb tide, it just collects on the ebb tide and washes back into the U.S. waters. That's them misting their coal down. And this is because I'm fishing there. I'm taking these pictures while we're fishing.
Folks tell us, when they talk to us, they say, well, you guys are always picking for a fight. No, we're not picking for a fight. We're willing very strongly to stand up and defend what we believe and value and try to preserve for the future. That's who Lummi is.
Fishing is a way of life. It's our Stalangen. In our language, that's way of life, our Stalangen. It's who we are.
I share in the joy of this particular result of this battle, but I don't expect it to end here.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure some of this stuff out. Don't make a crisis out of something that's not a crisis just for political advancement. And that's our feeling. That's what's being done. And it's cutting our throats. It's cutting our families' throats. It's cutting our communities' throats. It's not right. We need to be finding ways to bolster it. We need to be, instead of running away from coal, we need to be running to coal.
We the people have the right to clean air. We the people have the right to clean water. We the people have the right to expect our lands to be clean of pollutants.
Regardless of what the decision was, we're going to fight and, go to any length and do anything and whatever is necessary to protect.
We're driven by, we want to keep our jobs because we're raising families and we're fueling this community, and this is my state, and I want to live here, and I want to protect it.
Especially Lummi takes very seriously how do we protect for the future and the impacts we have now that take responsibility for what that's going to happen into the future.
It's not about us, it's about the seventh generation.
Yeah.
We just want to work. We just want to work our way through this, and we need someone to speak for us, and Friends of Coal is doing their best to give miners a voice, but that's hard because not very many people want to listen.
For 150 years, we didn't really have a voice. Many didn't even know reservation was nearby, or everybody tends to be caught up in their day-to-day life and busy lives that most don't realize how an Indian reservation was created.
The people around here are so frustrated with politics, politicians. They made this a political thing rather than a moral thing. What's the right thing for people? What's the right thing for families?